Today, we're diving into one of the biggest stories in all of mythology. Seriously, it's the epic power struggle that basically set the stage for the entire Greek pantheon. Let's get into this cosmic family feud. So, you know the names, right? Zeus, Poseidon, Hera, the whole Mount Olympus crew. But they weren't the first ones in charge. So who exactly did they have to take down to claim those thrones?
The answer? The Titans. These were the gods before the gods, a super-powerful primordial generation that the ancient poet Hesiod just called the former gods. Talk about an ominous title. And this was the original divine dynasty. There were 12 of them, born from the absolute originals: Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. You had 6 gods, including big names like Oceanus and Cronus, and 6 goddesses, the Titanesses, like Rhea and Themis. This was the first family of power.
You know, Hesiod's ancient account gives us this really chilling first impression of them. He says their name comes from the word to strain, basically because they overreached, they did a fearful deed, and in doing so, they kicked off this cycle of vengeance that would define the entire cosmos.
And oh boy, did that cycle of vengeance explode. We're talking all-out war. This wasn't just some battle. This was the Titanomachy, a conflict that was going to decide who would rule the heavens for, well, all of time.
So how did a war like this even start? Well, it began with their own father, Uranus. He hated his kids and actually imprisoned them inside their mother, Gaia. As you can imagine, she was not happy. So she armed her youngest son, Cronus, who went and overthrew his own dad. But then history looked like it was going to repeat itself. A prophecy warned Cronus that his own kid would do the exact same thing to him. So out of pure fear, he swallowed his first 5 children whole. Just wow. But his wife, Rhea, she tricked him. She hid their 6th child, a little god named Zeus. And when Zeus was all grown up, he came back and forced Cronus to free his siblings. And just like that, the war for the cosmos was on.
Now, this wasn't some quick little takeover. No way. The war between the old gods, the Titans, and the new gods, the Olympians, raged for a full decade, 10 years. An entire generation of divine beings locked in this absolutely cataclysmic fight for the universe.
In the end, though, Zeus and the Olympians pulled off the win. The Titans were defeated, cast down from the heavens, and locked away in Tartarus, which is basically a dark abyss way deep beneath the earth. This was it, the absolute end of their reign. So, with the former gods out of the picture, Zeus and his siblings created a whole new divine order. They became the famous pantheon we all know and love, ruling from their brand new home on Mount Olympus. But you know, this new order wasn't just about who had the most power. It was about the values and the forces that would now run the world. And to really get a feel for this new era, we can just look at the tension between 2 of its most powerful goddesses, figures who represent this fundamental clash of ideals that defines not just the gods, but us humans too. And that clash really comes down to this: wisdom versus desire. The logical, rational mind versus pure, passionate emotion. This entire conflict is perfectly embodied by 2 goddesses, Athena and Aphrodite. I mean, just look at how different they are. On one hand, you've got Athena. She's the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, famously born fully armored right from Zeus's head. She's pure intellect, pure strategy. And on the other hand, you have Aphrodite, born from the sea foam. Her world isn't the battlefield, it's the heart. She's all about love, beauty, and that powerful, and let's be honest, often messy pull of desire. Athena's whole deal is her strategic acumen. She's the one guiding heroes like Odysseus, not with raw power, but with brilliant advice and killer tactics. She represents that calculated, intellectual way of thinking your way through a problem. Now Aphrodite, she plays a completely different game. She doesn't need a spear or a shield. Her influence comes from mastering desire. I mean, think about it. She basically started the entire Trojan War just by promising the most beautiful woman in the world to a prince. That right there is the power of seduction. So they seem like complete opposites, don't they? One is all logic, the other is all emotion. But, and this is where it gets really interesting, the myths show us they actually share some very human-like flaws. And you see this perfectly in the story of the Judgment of Paris. So the story goes, a golden apple appears, and it's inscribed for the fairest. And of course, Athena, Aphrodite, and Hera all claim it's for them. So they let a mortal guy, Paris, decide which one of them is the most beautiful. And this little beauty contest reveals so much about them.
Suddenly, the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of love were both being driven by some pretty familiar feelings: deep envy, a crazy competitive spirit, and this desperate need for recognition. It just goes to show you, both pure logic and pure emotion can fall victim to good old-fashioned vanity.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? These incredible stories, from these huge cosmic wars to petty divine rivalries, they aren't just ancient tales. They're actually mirrors, and they reflect these timeless parts of our own human condition.
At its very core, the whole dynamic between Athena and Aphrodite, it isn't just about two goddesses arguing. It really represents that constant internal battle we all face every single day, that push and pull between our rational, strategic minds and our spontaneous, emotional hearts.
And that brings us to the final question, one I want you to think about. When you look at your own life, at the choices you make, are you guided more by the cool wisdom of Athena or by the passionate desire of Aphrodite? The answer, I think, says an awful lot about who we are.